What's going on, everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Stanford Cardinal are up next, and I'll give you an official prediction from this team, give you my thoughts on this team, and go through their schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Stanford team. 2021, the Stanford Cardinal went 3-9 overall. It wasn't really an interesting season. I mean, this team really fell apart at the end of the year. I can expect their coach to be on the hot seat by this point if he doesn't have a good season. Let's be honest. I mean, Stanford has had tough years, ups and downs in the Pac-12, but this team should be really good this year. I'm saying that right now. This should be a dangerous team. I mean, I'm saying that in all my videos that I think Stanford is going to be dangerous this year. I think they are a team to watch out for in the Pac-12. The offense and defensive rankings, let's take a look at those. 113th on offense, 106th on defense. Those are really not good numbers, but those should be improved. They should be maybe a top 30 offense this year, maybe even a top 30 defense. Let's be honest, I think these two numbers will be improved this year a lot in 2022. And the points per game and opponents per game, 20.4 points and 32.4 points given up. 20.4 points on the offensive side of the ball. That has to be improved this year a lot as well. But Stanford, this is a team that's really going to be dangerous. Let's be honest, they are a contender in the Pac-12. They maybe even win the Pac-12 conference, to be honest. I mean, they have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. And here's the schedule for 2022 for Stanford. And that opening game against Colgate is an easy one. They really have a tough non-conference schedule. They have Notre Dame on the schedule and BYU. I'll get to those games in just a minute, but Colgate is to begin here on September 3rd. This should be an easy win for Stanford. They have no business in losing this game, and I think they start out 1-0, and I think they do defeat Colgate on September 3rd. And then there's that game against USC at home. A really interesting matchup here between two great offensive teams. I'm saying USC is a, Pac-12 contender, but I'm not saying they're going to be a college football playoff contender. Maybe they will be a college football playoff contender, but some of these other predictions that I've seen, they are not really high on this team to make it to the college football playoff in their first year under Lincoln Riley. I don't really see that happening either. But for this game, I got to go with Stanford. I think the offense is there and the talent is there for Stanford, and I think they will defeat USC at home. And then they get the bye week rather early in the season in week number 3. Then they play Washington on the road here in week number 4. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Washington is a team that returns a lot of production from this year. I'm expecting this team to be really good than last year as well. Washington, though, it's a tough place to play. Stanford, this is a game they could potentially lose. I mean, they could potentially lose to Washington on the road, but I don't think it will be enough. I think the bye week helps out Stanford a lot in this one, and I think they do go on the road and defeat Washington. I'm seeing this maybe a potential top 25 matchup, but if Washington's not ranked in this week, I think I would see this being one of those upset alert type games. I'm seeing it right here, but I think Stanford does win it here. Then they play Oregon on the road, so back-to-back road games with Washington and then Oregon. I mean, Oregon really is going to be a tough place to play at. I mean, I'm not really high on this Oregon team. I don't really have them winning maybe 8 games this year, maybe 9. I mean, I really only predicted them to win 7 games, but I still think Oregon's got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're still going to compete in this game. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to go all the way to the fourth quarter. But if you saw my Oregon video, I did predict Stanford to win. I think Stanford does go on the road and defeat Oregon. This is a potential top 15 matchup, maybe a top 25 as well. And I'm seeing it as a close game through all the way into the fourth quarter. But I think Stanford is too talented, and I think they will defeat Oregon on the road. Next game is Oregon State here on October 8th, a home game here. So you get back-to-back teams against Oregon and then Oregon State. It's a tough stretch here. After those 2 road games, I think they're a little sluggish in this game against Oregon State. Oregon State's going to be an interesting team. They're an interesting team in the Pac-12. They may be an underdog team, maybe the 4th best team in the Pac-12 as well. But, they could potentially upset Stanford here, but with it being at home, I think Stanford does, get the win here. I don't really see Oregon State, pulling off a win here at Stanford. 5-0 is now Stanford here, and then they head on the road to face Notre Dame out of the non-conference. This is a rival game here. Notre Dame and Stanford. This is a rival game. Upset alert game, I'm calling it. I think this is one of those upset alert type games for Stanford. This is a really interesting matchup. And Notre Dame, I know, has a young offense this year, but they have a lot of talent on that offensive side of the ball. Let's be honest, they are still going to have a lot of talent. They recruited so well this year as what in this season. And with this being on the road, I see Notre Dame pulling off an upset. Yes, I'm going to go with the Irish. I think they do pull off an upset here against Stanford here at home. I'm not really seeing it being a blowout, though. I'm seeing it as a short-scoring type game, maybe a defensive battle. I think Notre Dame's going to be fired up in this one. I think, it's a potential top 25 matchup, and I think Notre Dame's going to be fired up and ready to play against Stanford, and I think that's why they will win it here. And it is a tough loss here, and it's their first loss of the season for Stanford. Arizona State is next on October 22nd, so a little bit of redemption here for Stanford after that loss to Notre Dame. I'm not saying they're going to take care of business, though. I think it's going to go into the first half, and I think second half, though, I think Stanford will pull away from Arizona State. I think Arizona State's going to be a really interesting team. People are kind of sleeping on them a little bit, and I think they will be that type of underdog team. They both have really good returning coming back this year on both sides of the ball as well, so don't really sleep on that Arizona State team. Next game is on the road at UCLA. This is another interesting matchup here for Stanford. UCLA on the road. I know UCLA's got one of the easiest schedules in the Pac-12 conference this year, but to me it looks tough. Let's be honest, but I think it's going to be a close game here. I think it's one of those another type of upset alert type games for Stanford, but I think Stanford should be better by this point because it's the month of October now, and I think they will be more dangerous than ever in this when they get to this type of game here against UCLA. And I think Stanford does beat UCLA on the road on October 29th. Washington State is up next here at home. I don't really see this one being all that close, to be honest. Washington State, is one of those underdog teams, but I just don't think Washington State's really that capable of beating Stanford here on the road. I don't really see this one being close, and I think Stanford does improve to 8-1 on the year. Next game is on the road at Utah. Big game here. This may be one of the biggest games in the Pac-12 this year. Maybe this could decide first and second place, whoever plays for the Pac-12 championship. But Utah is going to be an interesting team. And I say this is one of those another, games that Stanford could struggle in. And it's one of those another upset alert type games. But this is definitely a top 15 matchup. I mean, this is, top 15 matchup here. And I think it's going to be a close one. But I got to go with Utah. With it being on the road and a tough place to play, I got to go with Utah to pull off a win. I think Utah is the better team here, but I think Stanford is the more dangerous team, but I think Utah does pull off the win here with it being at home. Next game is on the road at California, also known as Cal. This is going to be an interesting matchup here, but not really interesting. Never mind that. I think California is going to be a little bit of a downfall team this year. I'm not really high on this team, and I think Stanford does get a win here after that loss to Utah. And then there's that final home game against BYU. BYU, an interesting team this year. They have a lot coming back on both sides of the ball. This is an offensive battle, I think, in my opinion. And I think these two teams are going to go at it. I think both teams will be fired up. They're hungry for a win. Let's say BYU was also 9-2 in this game. Let's be honest, it could go either way. Let's be honest, it could go either way. BYU, though, is a team that you don't want to sleep on. They have a lot coming back. They are a top 25 team. BYU is going to really compete in this game. With it being at home, though, I think Stanford does get the win. I think, with it being at home, they do in 2022 strong, and I think they might have a chance to maybe go to the Pac-12 championship after this game. So 10-2 is my prediction for Stanford. I think this is a really good year for Stanford. Notre Dame, though, is a loss there. It's a potential win. They could potentially go 11-1. But they could potentially go undefeated. But, they could go 9-3 with those losses to Oregon or Washington. Also go at 8-4 as well as potential. But I got 10-2 here for Stanford. Give me your thoughts on this team down in the comments below. And stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.